We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. Today we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all. Should I do this?
It's time to speak up. Today, March 20th, 2025, is the day education is unalived in the United States. Trump is signing an order abolishing the Department of Education. Now, this is because an uneducated populace is easier to control. He doesn't want us educated. He doesn't want us thinking. He doesn't want us reading, because now we have officially gone from a constitutional republic with democratic principles to a dictatorship. We are living in an authoritarian regime now, people, and there is no denying it. There's no denying it. Additionally, you know who loses almost 100% of their funding in schools under this program? Special needs kids. Special needs kids, and I'm getting reports from around the country, are already getting letters from their schools saying that they will no longer be offered their services. That's right. That's what he's doing. What are we going to do about it? Go out there and love your neighbor.
We have breaking news right now. Donald Trump has officially signed an executive order that begins the dismantling of the Department of Education as we know it. Now, Donald Trump cannot abolish the Department of Education. Let me repeat, he cannot abolish the Department of Education via an executive order. That requires an act of Congress. But today's executive order directs Lyndon McMahon, the Secretary of Education, to begin dismantling all non-statutory required functions effective immediately. This could affect everything from FAFSA to student loans to civil rights protections and so much more. I'm going to do a full breakdown on my Substack shortly of exactly what it covers. But essentially, today is the first step in ending key parts of the education department that protect students, fund education, and more. This is going to be a process that will happen over the next several days and weeks and months. It won't happen overnight, but he has signed the executive order. I'll do the full breakdown on my Substack, linked in bio for free. Follow along, stay up to date on all the news you need to know about. I'm sure there'll be more to come soon.
Donald Trump just announced a plan that could change American education forever by signing an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. Supporters call it a long overdue move to give power back to the states, while critics warn it could create chaos in our schools. What does this really mean for students, parents, and teachers? Let's break it down. Kindly stay tuned. It's your girl Vanessa. If you're new here, subscribe and tell me what you think in the comment section. A credit belongs to all original creators that we're going to see here. Stay tuned.
Trump dismantling the Department of Education is going to have horrific implications. So I actually think this is going to be super beneficial for us, but what are your concerns? Kids are going to lose access to their breakfast and lunch programs. Yeah, that's huge. The kids have to eat, but thankfully that's already funded by the Department of Agriculture. Okay, but what about the special needs children? What about the children who need IEPs and special education services? What about them? Super important, and I fully agree with you that we need to protect these children. However, all of that is being moved to the Department of Health and Human Services, so none of that is going away. Okay, whatever, but what about the grants and scholarships? What about the Pell Grants? Where are those going to come from? Yeah, absolutely. I was on a Pell Grant myself, and I understand the importance of having these grants and scholarships available, but thankfully, all of that is being transferred to the Department of Treasury. Whatever, okay, we need more funding, not less. More money it's not always the answer. Interestingly enough, adjusted for inflation even, the Department of Education's budget has grown from $14 billion to $80 billion in recent years, while student outcomes have actually gotten worse. Not just that, but nationwide, less than 32% of our children are proficient in reading, and less than 31% are proficient in math. The system is failing our children. It's time for it to go.
What's going to happen to student loans when Donald Trump signs the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education? Reportedly, they have been struggling to find somebody else to take up those loans, and nobody else want to touch it. Do that mean people don't have to pay back their student loans? It's like when you have something go to collections. The company you originally owed that money to sold that debt to another company. I don't have to pay that shit. You already sold it. That's no longer my responsibility. You wasn't even supposed to. I don't owe anything to you. So like if I owe money to AT&T and then AT&T shuts down, who do I owe that money to now? Matter of fact, I'll tell you what you do. Get Elon to go in there and start pressing buttons. Just deleting shit. Let's just see what happened. Just the only button he can press is delete. Okay? So just let him go in there for the Department of Education and just delete. Just let him go in that bitch and just tap delete until his little heart gets full.
It's official. As of 2 hours ago, Trump has officially signed the executive order shutting down the Department of Education. Trump signing this executive order is not only straight out of Project 2025 and their promises, but it also will harm 2 out of 3, if not all, Americans. This is the official document that was posted on the White House page. As you can see, it is dated March 20th, 2025, and they are calling it Improving Educational Outcomes by Empowering Parents, States, and Communities. Executive orders. Goes on to say, by the authority vested in me as the president and by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, and to enable parents, teachers, and communities to best ensure student success, it is hereby ordered. The rest of the order goes on to read that he is trying to shut down the Department of Education. Goes on to read, with the Department of Education's authorities, the Secretary of Education shall ensure that the allocation of any federal Department of Education funds is subject to rigorous compliance with federal law and administration policy, including the requirement that any program or actively receiving federal assistance terminates illegal discrimination obscured under the law, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or similar terms and programs promoting gender ideology. I told you yesterday he was going to sign it, and today he fucking signed it. This will not be good. So for you guys saying, oh, great, and that this had nothing to do with Project 2025, there's the fine print along with all the other executive orders that he signed.
On 20th March 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order initiating the process to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. In his statement, he emphasized that this move aims to return control over education to state and local governments, asserting that education is fundamentally a state responsibility. He criticized the department for its inefficiencies and high costs since its establishment in 1979, stating that closing it would drastically improve program implementation in higher education. He also highlighted that essential education programs, including student loans, Pell Grants, and Title I funding will continue but will be managed by other federal agencies over time. However, it's important to note that completely abolishing a federal agency like the Department of Education requires congressional approval, which presents a significant legislative challenge. So I'm going to share with you some positive and negative impacts of dismantling the Department of Education. Supporters' perspective, of course, positive. More states control. Many believe states should have full authority over education without federal interference, allowing for tailored policies that reflect local needs. And less bureaucracy. Eliminating the Department of Education could cut red tape, giving schools and districts more freedom to innovate. And parental rights and school choice. Some argued that without federal mandates, parents would have more say in their children's education, boosting alternatives like charter schools and homeschooling. What about reduced federal spending? Cutting the department could save billions of taxpayer dollars, redirecting funds to schools or other priorities. Critics' perspectives in negative way. Loss of federal oversight. Critics warn that removing the department could lead to disparities in education quality, especially for disadvantaged students. Funding challenges. Federal grants and student aid programs could be at risk, potentially affecting low-income families and higher education affordability. Civil rights concerns. The department enforces protections for students with disabilities and against discrimination. Without it, some fear students' rights may weaken. State inconsistencies. If states set their own rules, education standards could vary dramatically, making it harder for students to transfer or compete nationally. Guys, this is the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your love, your support, your kindness. If you haven't yet subscribed, kindly subscribe for more videos which are coming ahead. Support your girl Vanessa. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.